Memphis. Kind of cool this morning. Brendan Martin in Ocala, Florida, where it's always sunny and beautiful. At least it is this year. And it is a gorgeous day. And we got a lot to talk about, man. Let's do this. Get your cell phone out. Take a picture with your QR code. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Lots to talk about. We got Chris Lee, Southeastern 16, joining us. Oakley McFerrin, the intern from down on the rolling plains of Dixie. We've got Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. Man, this guy, if you watch Twitter and you look at Twitter, he's one of the most active Twitter people out there. That is Jacques Doucet. Dudley Dawson, Inside Arkansas, and Jake Wimberly in the second half hour joins us as well from ESPN 105.9 The Drive, Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Look, Brendan's right. Share us and like us. That means more than you'll ever know, but that's how this show grows. It's how we provide content. And if you're interested in being on this show and being a sponsor of this show, we get returns on your investment. Landers Ford right over my shoulder. Hewlett and Dunn. Got a lot of great sponsors. We're growing because we have the best guest and the best producer on the planet. So let's get started. Let's go right now. Chris and Oakley. Chris, I'll start with you, the Southeastern 16. I love the logo. Coaching changes, CFP rankings have come out. Let's start, first off, your takeaway with the CFP rankings. Did they get it right, wrong, or, maybe you got your own version?
Well, no, I didn't see anything egregious. I had kind of came up with a model to predict what basically part of it's power rankings, which is strength of team. Part of it is a resume system. I came up with who you beat. If you lose a game, it's always a negative on the resume thing. Like it's a -1 if you lose at Ohio State. It's like a -60 if you lose to UMass. And scored the wins and the losses and used half of it as power rankings, half of it as resume. Yeah. My top 4 teams in order were Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama. Exactly the order the committee had them in. I had Georgia at 6. Committee had them at 5. I had Ole Miss at 7. Committee had them at 6. I had BYU at 8. Committee had them at 7. I had Texas Tech at 9. Committee had them at 8. So I was almost nailed it. The fly in the ointment was Oregon. And I think what happened is Oregon got what was a really good win over Montana State.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, yeah, they did that. I think that win, people
at the time it was.
Yeah, Montana State, like if they played like Tulane right now, if you look, that would be a pick 'em according to Sagarin. Mm-hmm. And I think I built that into the model, and I think that's where that missed. But it was crazy to me that it turned out exactly the way I had it. Next team I had in there was Notre Dame. I have some reservations about that, but that's exactly where the committee put them. My next team was Texas. That's exactly where the committee put them. Yeah. It was crazy how it worked out. And it may be a happy accident, but it worked pretty well. I got 11 of the 12 last year. The one I missed, I had Alabama in over SMU. But all I'm saying is if that's valid, I don't have a big issue with what the committee did. Now, I'll tell you what was interesting, and I'm not saying that's the end-all, be-all. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting to me, if you looked at the ratings, guys, you saw a lot of groupings of teams that either are going to play each other or have played each other right next to each other. Like, for example, BYU and Texas Tech right next to each other. They haven't played, but they'll play this weekend. Oklahoma and Texas right next to each other. They played already. Texas won that game. Texas was 1 spot ahead. You saw that throughout the rankings. Now, what I thought was interesting is they put Miami all the way down at 18, which beat Notre Dame head-to-head. Because if you put them close together and you're valuing head-to-head, then Miami's got to be in over Notre Dame, right? Because both of them have 2 losses, and Miami beat them head-to-head. They put Notre Dame at 10. They put Miami all the way down at 18. Yep. I thought that was pretty interesting because what the committee did last night is said, and I'm not saying it's the right decision. I'm not saying it's the wrong decision because I can get both sides. If you're taking top 10 teams in the country, Notre Dame absolutely is there.
Yeah.
If you're just going to kind of throw resume, not to the side, and they did beat Southern Cal, right? But here's my point. I think the distance the committee put between those teams is going to be very helpful in putting Notre Dame in the playoff because it's not side by side with Miami. And I mean, Notre Dame now, but what the committee said is if Notre Dame keeps winning, Notre Dame is getting in this thing. Yeah. So that was probably my most interesting takeaway. Also, kind of, I won't bore you with all the details, but I think this is what's going to happen. Group of 5 is going to get 1. I think the groundwork has been laid for the Big 12 to get 2. We'll see how that goes. So that's a spot that the Big 10 and the SEC maybe had thought they would have that won't. I think the ACC is only going to get 1 by the way the rankings panned out and where they put the teams. And I think the Big 10 is looking like 3, depending on Oregon and or Iowa and maybe Michigan. But it feels like the Big 10 is going to get 3, and it feels like what's left over is 4 bids for the SEC. Right. There's a path to 5, but if I had to guess today, the way this sets up, I think the SEC is only getting 4.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I agree with him. I think the biggest winner by far was Notre Dame because this put them in a position where, I mean, if they win out, which they really don't have really a losable game left on their schedule probably in terms of the talent they have versus the opposing teams they're going to be playing. So I think they kind of secured their spot, and Miami lost. I mean, if they win out, I still don't see how they can back in. And yeah, I think the SEC really needs to cheer for whoever wins the Texas Tech BYU game. The SEC and Big Ten need to be cheering for them to win their conference title and eliminate the other, which opens up another spot for them too.
One more thing quickly. There were only 2 teams that I didn't have in the top 25 that I came up with. One was Iowa.
Yeah.
Put in there, and the other one was Pitt. I think they're both dispensable. The resumes are a little bit light, but Pitt at 23 was interesting because that's Notre Dame's toughest game coming up. And I'm not going to tell you it's a conspiracy theory because I think Notre Dame, Pitt probably could belong in there anyway. It's a 2-loss team. I think it's a pretty good team, but Pitt plays Notre Dame. So that's another one you can chalk up if Notre Dame wins. Hey, it beat a top 25 playoff team. I'm not saying there were shenanigans, but that's another thing that the committee can point to when it includes Notre Dame is like, hey, it beat Pitt. We had Pitt in our rankings.
Yeah. All right. Switch gears now. You cover Vandy. Auburn coming to town. I've never seen this in my lifetime. 7.5-point underdog to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt went on the road to Texas, had a rough start, but damn, they're like Georgia. Yeah. They play a full 60.
That was one of the weirdest games I've seen because, I mean, they didn't belong on the field with Texas for most of the game. And like, at the end of it, Vanderbilt is an onside kick that, man, if you do that thing again with those bounces, I'm going to guess they recover that more often than not. And I would not have bet against them at that point to win that game, the way that offense was rolling. So I think that's number 1. Now, number 2, a lot of, you see this from a lot of Texas people. Oh, y'all were lucky to be in the game, that kind of thing. And they might be right. But here's the thing. Vanderbilt played horribly for 3 quarters. Like, that's the worst. And did Texas have something to do with that? Yes, it did. But for Vanderbilt to play as poorly as it did, it missed, I think, 20 tackles. Its offensive line gave up 6 sacks. I think they'd given up 7 the whole year. Like, that's one of those games, like, it's a glass half empty, glass half full, because Vanderbilt played really poorly for 3 quarters and still darn near won at Texas.
Yeah. Not to take anything away from Texas, because I think that was their best complete game, maybe up until the final quarter. But, I mean, started on the first play of the game. You missed a tackle at the first down marker, and that goes for 75 yards. And that was the first time Vanderbilt's really been punched in the mouth early on. I think they were maybe kind of shocked and let Texas build on that lead and affected them the rest of the game. Because, I mean, not to single out a player, but C.J. Hurd's one of their best defensive players, and I counted probably 9 missed tackles.
So, he was awful. Yeah.
Hey, I love it. Hey, when you send in text and your comments on the chat room, I love this. Listening from Cape San Blas, Florida, Indian Pass Pirate. Thanks for watching. That's the Big Bend area. Well, before the Big Bend area, Cape San Blas, Mexico Beach, San Jose Beach. That is a gorgeous area of Florida. Thanks for watching. All right, Chris, I want to ask you about these coaching openings. I can't remember anything like this. We're at 12 right now, which means 24. You've got 3 tradition-rich programs, Florida, LSU, and Auburn, all without coaches. right now. Where are you going to find these coaches? Or, let's say this. If DJ Durkin, one of my friends, Ray Mooring, listens to the show every day in Huntsville, said, if DJ Durkin was the defensive coordinator at Alabama or Georgia or Notre Dame, that would be the most coveted guy out there. Who do you think gets that Auburn job? Do you want it?
Well, DJ Durkin's got a little baggage. First of all, you probably know about that, fairly or unfairly. That's probably playing a part. I mean, look, here's the thing, and I'm going to say two things that are going to sound contradictory, and they kind of are, but things always find a way to harmonize, and they have to in this case because people have to find coaches.
Yeah.
It seems like we're in a game of musical chairs where you've got more chairs than maybe people that have been invited to play the game so far. John Summerall can't sit in 3 chairs. Eli Drinkwitz and Lane Kiffin can't sit in 2 or 3 chairs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they could, but not in football you can. So that's one dynamic. The other dynamic is I always think there's people out there that you don't know. I mean, and like I was listening to Reese Davis's podcast this morning. He brought up Kirby Smart was an assistant before he became a head coach at Georgia. Been one place, it's gone well. Same thing for Dan Lanning at Oregon. There were some other names in there. So, you're always looking for a proven head coach, but sometimes if you can find that coordinator, now it's very different responsibilities, right? Coordinating and leading a team, different skill sets. But if you can find the right guy, it's worked well for some of the teams that are in the hunt right now.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I think there's always, if you're going to get creative and look into it, look at how Ole Miss found its quarterback. Nobody knew about Trinidad Chambliss. And Lane Kiffin watched some film. The staff didn't who is this guy? We got to get him. There are guys out there under the radar, and it's the same way in the coaching profession. Kurt Cignetti. Nobody was talking about Kurt Cignetti a year and a half ago. Look at what he's done. I think the challenge is going to be for some of these programs to find that next guy of that level. Yeah.
You know who one of the cradles of coaches is in college football that people don't talk about? We know Miami of Ohio is. It's University of Wyoming. Bob Devaney, Fred Akers, Patrick Fain Dye was there 1 year. Okay. And Oakley, who do you want to be the coach on the Plains at Auburn? Who's your best candidate?
I think the number one realistic candidate for Auburn is John Summerall. I mean, I think Auburn's looking for a coach that, Auburn hasn't had a coach since Pat Dye that really lights a fire into the fan base. I mean, you look at the last 3 coaches, they're all kind of here. Brian Harsin didn't fit. Offense is pastime. So, I mean, I think Auburn more than any of these job openings needs to hit on their candidate because the fan base is frankly getting impatient. You don't want to turn into Tennessee where you're bad for 2 decades and stuck in that area.
Yeah, I think he's right. And Chris, you look at tomorrow night in Memphis at Simmons Bank Liberty Bowl Stadium. You got John Summerall, Tulane against Ryan Silverfield, Memphis. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs watching that game. And you mentioned Montana State out in Bozeman, the Bobcats. Man, my best friend's daughter went to school out there. He's been to a few games out there, and he's an Alabama grad. I mean, he knows good football. There's North Dakota State, South Dakota State.
Yeah.
That's where you might find your How about the Fargo Dome, man? I mean, it's only 18,000, but, man, there's a lot of, don't you knows in that stadium. Yeah, sure there, Margie.
Okay. I'm not sure how to follow that, but
Fargo, remember the movie Fargo?
Oh yeah, I know exactly. Right. All right,
look, Chris, I know you've got to get going to another appearance. We got Jacques Doucet just joining us. He had some internet issues down in Baton Rouge, but tell people how they can follow you, and let's do this again next Wednesday. I know you're always busy, but if Wednesdays work, man, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, Southeastern 16, our YouTube channel. We're over 30,000 now. We cover baseball, football, basketball year-round in the SEC, and on the Vandy side, Vandy 24/7, and the podcast and YouTube channel with that. We've got a podcast on that one coming up today, and right before that, I'll be doing one on hoops in the SEC.
Hey, I'm getting ready for basketball. No easy outs. No easy outs.
Nope.
Yeah. And then baseball, you're the king of baseball. All right, Chris, have a great day, man. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Same.
All right. Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9, 2-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year. Jacques, running. Man, he's mobile today. How you doing? Hopefully he can hear us. Jacques will come back in when he can. Oakley, What we talked about just now, you look at these coaches. This is something I watch a lot of football. And Jacques, we got you now. What's the latest down in Baton Rouge? There's been kind of quiet lately down there.
Yeah, there's nothing going on. It's been pretty boring. What's the latest on what? You want the latest on the LSU president, the LSU athletic director, the LSU head football coach? I mean,
sure.
What?
Hey, we want it all.
Well, I tell you what, there's been more jammed into 10 days. I mean, any of these stories on their own are major stories, and they all happened in 10 days. To fire your head football coach, which I got to be honest, before the year, I did not think was going to happen because of what LSU owed Brian Kelly on the buyout. But money talks, and the team was showing no life, so they fire him. The governor of our state comes out at a press conference that I believe was supposed to be about food stamps and publicly blasts the athletic director and says he's not going to make the next hire at LSU. The next day, the athletic director is fired, an athletic director who, look, none of us are perfect. I guess they can look at any of our resumes and find some blemishes, but this guy.
Yeah, well, he's talking about.
And we've got an 8 a.m. press conference on a Friday morning, Halloween of all times, and an interim AD is named. And then the interim AD became the permanent AD apparently last night. So that's where we are in Baton Rouge right now. And, oh, by the way, LSU is playing at Alabama this weekend. So that's just kind of the footnotes of where we are in Baton Rouge.
Hey, for clarification purposes, Frank Duffy does a podcast on this show. He needs to get you on Gold to Go on Fridays right after this show. Jimbo's deal was done by Ross Bjork, I think. Ross Bjork, that's what I call it. No, Ross Bjork at A&M. That was done, I believe, before Scott Woodward. Scott Woodward was not solely responsible for Jimbo's $75 million deal at A&M, was he?
No, I think that's one thing I think that has been kind of misreported. I mean, certainly Scott Woodward signed Jimbo Fisher in the beginning, and it was a 10-year, $75 million deal, but Scott Woodward became the LSU AD in early 2019. He left A&M by that point, and Jimbo was fired at the end of 2000 and was given a big extension between those two times by Bjork, right, who's the AD over at A&M. So Scott Woodward was not responsible for that. Look, I mean, can two things be true? Can hiring Brian Kelly been a great hire and a big time hire and landing a big time coach, and then it didn't work out? I can't fault Scott Woodward a ton for hiring Brian Kelly. I think LSU fans have every right to be.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, everybody's frustrated with the money that's being spent. I think that's the primary thing. And I know you look at Oakley, 10 years, $75 million for Jimbo. And I think now Jimbo's out there and people say, would you hire Jimbo? What's motivating Jimbo right now? Jacques, and Oakley, I know you got questions for Jacques Doucet, who is getting a hell of an arm workout holding up that phone like that.
Yeah, I think the primary thing LSU is looking for in this coaching search is finding someone who fits the LSU culture, because that's the most important thing for an LSU head football coach, because no one doubts Brian Kelly's a bad football coach. But from the get-go, we all knew he wasn't the right fit. And that ended up costing him the second he started losing.
Well, I think anybody that comes here is not a fit, but they have to learn how to adapt and become a fit. I think that is the thing with Brian Kelly from day one. When his airplane landed and there was hundreds of people along the fence gathering to see their new head football coach, and he gives them a half-ass wave from a mile away, gets in his car and drives off, that's not what you should do to endear yourself here. I mean, you need to walk over and at least say, hey, thanks for coming, guys, go Tigers, shake your fist and get in your car. And when you do your coach's show, when people want to go up during a commercial break and take a picture with you or get an autograph signed, you should do that instead of having the state trooper wave people away. I think that there was just always this kind of, as people down here would put it, northeastern, arrogant, elitist kind of behavior from him that just did not land. And, they used to do things do something called a Tiger Tour, where the coach would go around the state and visit different cities. They didn't do that. And, since he's been let go, there hasn't been a single quote attributed to him about his time at LSU. Look, it didn't work out. But, Hugh Freeze put out a little, whether his secretary did it or whoever, put out a photo and thanked Auburn Nation. It didn't work out, but I appreciate the opportunity. He hasn't done any of that. So it's to me, it feels like that he is going to go down in LSU history as far less revered than some other coaches who didn't win nearly as much as he did. Because after 3.5 years, I think there's still a feeling down here of who is this guy? We don't know who this guy is. And look, if he would have gone 11-1, 10-2 every year and made the.
Well, the thing about LSU is you got to embrace that culture, Jacques. If sure. Mock chew beef tongue, mock chew gravy with beef tongue, gumbo. You got to duck hunt. You got to love red fishing. You got to understand where Bayou Lafourche is, and you got to understand about Lake Charles and DeRidder and Youngsville. Oh, you got to understand.
If you don't understand, you've got to be willing to learn and be a student of it.
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to be a part of the culture and embrace it. You can't just sit in your car and be like, "Peace, I'm out. I'm from wherever."
Yeah, I'm from Boston. I mean, I love
the thing with the thing. That's not.
Yeah, Jacques, I can tell you, I would love to be the LSU coach. I mean, I think it would be it would be one of the greatest jobs on the planet.
You would eat too much,
Rob. But I would eat a lot.
I eat too much.
I would learn to speak Cajun French with your dad. That's what I tell you. I would do.
Yeah, you better learn how to make Tigers win.
Yeah,
I think that even a guy like Ed Ogeron, people said, well, he was the ultimate fit. And look, maybe around the state he was, but even in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, man, there's some people that turn their nose up at all that Cajun stuff. That they sound stupid. Cajun people sound stupid. We're not intelligent, blah, blah, blah. Some people in our state will say that to our face. And so, I think in Ed Ogeron's case, a lot of people that were championing him on in 2019 when it was the dream season were certainly the same ones that were talking, about him when it went downhill in 2020 and 21. So, who is going to be the new head coach? I think it's way too early to even have a feel on that. Certainly Verge Osbury, the AD yesterday, came out and seemed to put an end to any hopes that Nick Saban would come back. That'd be an ultimate kind of dream scenario to cover as a media guy for sure. But would it be a guy like Summerall who would definitely work very hard at this job? The thing with Scott Woodward is always big name coach. Get a big name coach. Well, maybe it's trying to find an up and coming coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, and I mean, I think John Summerall would be a home run hire for LSU. I don't know if they'll do it because, like you said, I mean, I think they could poach someone higher, like a Lane Kiffin or a Drinkwitz or something like that. But Summerall, you see how he loves New Orleans, protects Tulane. I mean, he's done nothing but win. He's got a fire about him. I think he's loved in New Orleans, so I think he'd be a perfect fit in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Jacques, I know you got a tight at 8:30, and thank you so much for working through this turbulence with us. Tell us what you think is going to happen when LSU and Frank Wilson's Tigers go to Tuscaloosa Saturday. Yeah. Well, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. Jacques, I know we're having some turbulence issues, but Dudley, Oakley, you've been to a lot of games in Tuscaloosa over the years, and you know what that environment's going to be like. Frank Wilson, by the way, the interim coach at LSU, one of the best recruiters in America. He's from New Orleans. He's been at Ole Miss. He's at LSU right now. Alabama is the hottest team, probably in the SEC in terms of just dominating, but they're not dominating like, say, a Saban team 4 or 5 years ago.
No, I mean they've had great wins. They've won 5 ranked matchups so far.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, it's all by one possession. It comes down to really 1 or 2 plays. And LSU has the talent to compete in this game. Now they can't turn the ball over. They have to have a few things go their way. But I like their chances a lot more. A motivated LSU team playing for a coach that they, I think, really rally behind. Because, to be frank, I don't think many players like Brian Kelly or are too fond of him.
No. Well, that was big pushes initially was that the alumni were coming back. And there were several alumni who were, very vocal about how Brian Kelly wasn't the right fit, and that was really what rung the bells early. To where when former athletes are in the locker room and they're saying this guy's not the right guy. I mean, come on, and you could see it. I know we make fun of his little, but like,
yeah, that was awful.
But the point of that is that it was super tone deaf, right? It just it was like it's not the look that you want represented from the HBC at your for your football team. It just
I agree. I agree with Brendan.
I think it's cringe, and I'm not. I think that is just okay, great X's and O's guy, but like super weird, and that but look, Dan Mullen, a lot of these guys, I'm telling you, when you get to know them a little bit, they're very interesting people.
Well, Mullen is from New Hampshire somewhere. I know Chip Kelly's from New Hampshire. George O'Leary was from New Hampshire. Brian Kelly from Boston. They did that when they did the thing on Netflix, Any Given Saturday, about coaching in the SEC. The thing I remember with him was he was in his wine cellar, and every other word was an F-bomb. You better embrace that culture and get wallered up in it down in Louisiana. I love the food down there. It's the greatest food in the world. I've been in New Orleans a bunch in different parts of the state. Got a couple of guys from Lake Charles in our hunting club. You can't get better people. But you better know, you better embrace them and like Jacques said, don't disrespect the Cajun culture, man. That is the heart and soul of a big part of that state. Not all of it, but a big part of it.
And the point is that it's not hard to do. Hugh Freeze sent his assistant to do something today. Look, these things aren't hard to do. To give the PR, right, the perception that you care, is not difficult. You show up, you kiss some babies, you eat some gumbo, whatever you got to do, man. Like, honest to God, like, it's not hard, right? And then you let the culture speak for itself, right? You just get out of the way, right? Billy Napier did the same thing at Florida. I saw little nuances along the way, a little logo design, a little bit different. Like, everything was a little different. And it was like a slightly, like trying to, do a whole makeover. I think that's partly where he went wrong, is that he just bit off more than he could chew. Right. Yeah. And you go get the biggest, college coaching staff in history. Right. And then part of your problem is that you can't, communicate to your team and get the right personnel on. And that was something that was, a part of his history here at Florida. So these kinds of things, of course, they're going to follow you or whatever. But again, Brian Kelly, just get out of the way of the culture. Go be a great football coach. Right. You don't have to do it, but don't go out of your way to suck.
Yeah. Well, I think the players tell you a lot, and not one person on social media did you see say something positive about Brian Kelly. And I think part of the problem is he followed Ed Orgeron, who may not have been the best coach, but talk about being involved in Louisiana culture and being endeared by a lot of the fans, and eating gumbo on Sundays at the club, whatever.
Red beans and rice on Mondays. That is a tradition in New Orleans. And I had red beans.
About traditions is that they're history. They're right there for you. Follow the blueprint. You don't have to come in and do all these things. And that's what happens when you get guys that are coming out from the SEC that are really not used to that whole thing.
Well, it's as simple as in the Tiger Walk, just giving some fist bumps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Well, Bruce Pearl is from Boston, and he pretty much embraced the culture in the South, in Knoxville and Auburn and everywhere he's been. And I tell y'all are both right. When you start thinking about Florida, and I've noticed this over the years, and Brendan lives it. He has GatorBaitMedia.com. Florida is not Miami and South Beach and Naples. It's not these. It is small. It's rural. Central Florida is an identical copy of Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. Those people down there are as Southern as it gets. And you go to a Gator game, it's not a bunch of people from New Jersey and New York. That's not the Gator fan base. The Gator fan base are they are so freaking loyal. I've watched it playing them all these decades. And if you don't understand that you also need to have a swagger and just an attitude to be the coach of Florida.
That's
everything.
That's the signature. And we'll bring in Dudley Dawson here. And I know Oak's got to go to class, but that's the signature of every school. You have your SEC sort of, you have a culture for the SEC, but then each school's got a little different take, right?
Subculture. Yeah,
right. So Auburn's really homey and makes you feel like home, it's very welcoming. It's very, Florida's a little different, right? Florida's you better come in, a la Steve Spurrier, you got a fighter pilot mentality, man. I'm going to draw up some plays. Let's go play football. We're going to throw it. We're going to be exciting. But I know people don't think that matters, but it matters. It does.
It absolutely does. If you're the coach at Arkansas, Dudley, you know what you need to do? You need to know the state. Yes. I'm in Memphis. I'm over in Parkin now. I'm in the Delta. I am surrounded. The farm next door to us, the farm shop, they farm 25,000 acres. This is what makes America work. But you've got to. And by the way, Houston Nutt's going to be on our show Friday morning with us. Right. Dudley, let's talk about Arkansas, what's going on up there. Get the band back together. If you were king for one day, you and let's say Jim and Pat McClellan all got together on Spring Street and said, how are we going to fix Arkansas? The man in the Celtics hat has the floor.
Well, I would, if I'm going to do it as me, I'm going to hire Tim Horton as head coach, Barry Lundy as offensive coordinator, and find me a defensive coordinator with Arkansas roots as well. Now, I may fail at doing that, but they failed at not doing that here lately. So, try something different. Go back to, as you and I were talking yesterday on the phone, get the band back together. It couldn't go worse. It's 7 losses now, and each time, and a couple of them, they've played really good teams in Texas A&M, and but they find ways to lose. And this past Saturday, during Penalty Fest, and there were some that I disagreed with the referees, but I don't really go in on the referees that much. But my God, I almost said something didn't want to. Everybody lost their cool, and just kept reverberating on down. And Coach Petrino has done some great things for this university during his 2 tenures here. The first tenure for sure. But he lost his composure, and that caused his team to continue losing their composure. 18 penalties, 193 yards, 55 and 75 yards are the last. 55 years and 75 years are the last 2 times those numbers have been acquiesced on a football field by this football.
Yeah. Oh, jump in here. I know you got to go to class in a couple of minutes, but getting Arkansas. I know Tim Horton. Dudley knows him. He's one of the best guys. I'd get him back. I'd get the band back together. They can do it.
Yeah, I think it's got to be so frustrating for Arkansas fans because you're so close versus good teams, and you're just finding ways to lose. You're up 21-10 against Auburn with all the momentum going into halftime, and you find a way to lose. Then you're up 10 in the fourth quarter versus Mississippi State. You find a way to lose. It's just got to be so frustrating. We kind of experienced it last year here on the Plains, but I wanted to get your take on maybe some other coaching candidates for Arkansas. And a name I've been seeing a lot is Eric Morris from North Texas, kind of an offensive guru. He could bring a quarterback. You still got Taylor Green, but maybe take a risk on an up-and-comer like that.
I'm all for that as well. I've done some research on him, and while he might not be the biggest name, and while I'm sure there are some people out there who would go, no more guys named Morris from Texas get the head coaching job. That can't happen.
Yeah, Morris.
But everything he's done looks really good. Will Stein, the Oregon offensive coordinator. There's a lot of guys I think out there that you have the opportunity to go get that could really be surprising and hit what you need to do in this league. Dude up in Indiana, nobody was running around trying to, hire him 8 years ago, and now he's the just ask him.
Yeah. Well, and hello, Bulldog, Mississippi. I put on here where you're from. I think that's cool. Well, Dudley, what Oakley just brought up about Morris from Texas, that is, there's some great coaches out there that are or smaller schools or coordinators, but go back and look at coaches who were the 4th and 5th choices who panned out really well. And what Arkansas, Tim Horton and I have talked about it. When Arkansas's got 45% of their roster in state and they got the best players from the state of Arkansas, that's when they're rolling.
Arkansas has six commitments from the top 30 players in Arkansas. That won't work. I mean, Missouri almost has that many in the class as well. There's others that have come in here and gotten pledges and are going to get some more depending on what happens. In this month. I can't wait. There's a couple reasons I can't wait for this month to get over. Number one is I talked to you yesterday. I'm having knee surgery on Thursday. I want to cut it off or get it fixed. One of the two. The second thing is I gotta feel like that by the end of November, I'm gonna have some clarity on which way this thing's going.
Yeah,
I do think they need the middle of probably after this open date and you go play LSU. Surely somebody will say something. You got to. I talk to recruits all the time. It's part of my podcast on Inside Arkansas now, and all they want to know is who's going to be here.
Yeah.
And their signing date is December 3rd through 5th. There's a couple that are midterm guys that have actually asked my opinion on what I thought was going to happen, and I tell them, but then I say, man, in the big scheme of things, I don't really know for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I know you got to go to class. Closing thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing to consider during all these hires, and you bring in all these names, who can keep the current roster together? Because you got to keep, I'd say, north of 50% to kind of get things rolling pretty fast. And I think that's a thing to consider for all these open vacancies.
All right. Oh, I'll talk to you here later, and we'll do it again next week. Thank you so
y'all.
much. You bet. All right, we'll get JW back in here, Jake Wimberly, in a second. Dudley, you're looking at that roster. That is so true. Jake, you are a numbers guru down at the ESPN 105.9, the afternoon drive, 3 to 6 p.m., folks. Catch it Monday through Friday, not on, as they say in the Deep South, Saturday. I think there's a T in there somewhere. But we're a Southern sports show, so we know how to do it. Jake, what's going on down there in Mississippi right now? You know Mississippi State, Southern, Ole Miss. And Southern's at 6-2, by the way. And as much as we are an SEC show, I love all football all over the country. And we were talking earlier, there's good football at Montana State. I like watching the Montana Grizzlies. All these teams, man, got to feel like they have a chance. But let's talk some Mississippi State football.
Yeah, I mean, real quickly, Charles Huff doing a great job at Southern Miss. They've got an opportunity, at least in the next couple of weeks, they'll play Troy. If they've got a big one at Arkansas State this weekend. Yeah. To continue on in that Sun Belt race, of course, we know Ole Miss, where they're at in the initial college football playoff rankings. And then you look at Jeff Levy, I know Dudley's probably talked about this, just a penalty-laden ball game over the weekend. It was not the greatest to the eye type of football game. But look, hey, a win is a win. You get a win. I've said this. If you can get a win in the conference, regardless of who it's against, that's a good win because, it's 16 of the better rosters in the country. So, Jeff Levy now with 5 wins, with 3 to play. Obviously, Georgia coming in. That's a big uphill battle this weekend. Missouri, is a game I think coming up in a couple weeks where Mississippi State will have a chance to be competitive. And then, of course, you look at the Egg Bowl. I'm not a whole throw the records out kind of guy. I mean, I feel like typically the best team wins, but Mississippi State will be very competitive in that game. So a lot to play for Jeff Levy and Mississippi State over 3 weeks.
No, there's no question. And, Vince Ferrara would normally be on here with us as well. He's had hip surgery, so prayers to Big Vince. He'll be back next week. Getting you together and Vince and Dudley and all, you learn a lot. Dudley, I think about how close Arkansas is in all these games. And it's NIL money, and I think this is a story that needs to be written, and I'm sure it is. But at some schools, offense or the defense, one or the other sometimes hogs the NIL money, and the other side is left with not a lot. And that's significant.
I think we can all guess which side got the money at Arkansas, can't we?
Yes, we can. Special teams.
Yeah, that would have been the offense. Interesting thing, I don't know if I told you this yesterday, Rob, Bai is a 1-score favorite over Arkansas this weekend. would be like the 27th one score loss they take. And I mean, it's unbelievable the way they found to lose games. But yeah, whatever this situation ends up being, like whoever the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, you got to share the wealth or share the non-wealth, however it is. I really do believe, from what I'm hearing, and as you know, I'll always say I don't traffic in rumors, but James Franklin is a guy that they seem to really, really want up here, and they're getting together money. And, one day he's going to be at not Louisiana Tech, Virginia Tech. And the next day he's going to be somewhere else. These agents, Jimmy Sexton, others, are doing a fine job with all these openings, dropping a candidate a day into each pool and saying, this, and doing all this. You got to watch these guys, even though that's what, my son's an agent and, worked with Sexton for a little while. I know how, everybody gets mad at them, but they're just doing what they're taught to do or learned to do and really good at. Arkansas has seemed to end up each time being played. You will see if that happens again this time, but there's legitimate candidates out there. If you don't get your top choice, I do feel like there is a much better crew of folks that will take the job this time than there were when the 8 people reportedly turned down the job last time, and it ended up with Sam Pittman, taking the job.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Jake, let's switch now to numbers. CFP rankings came out last night. Of course, I wouldn't know. I'm a YouTube streamer, so and the neighbors had the blinds pulled down, so I didn't see. So tell me about it. What you saw. What your takeaways are.
The first rankings, and again, this is just my opinion. I think some share this. The same opinion. I had Heath Klein on yesterday with Chuck Oliver's show, and he had kind of the same opinion. Is, hey, look, these first 2-3 polls. I mean, really, I think some of this is for show. This is a TV event deal, a marketing deal, but nonetheless, we get to see the rankings. So, no surprise that Ohio State and Indiana are 1 and 2. In Texas A&M at number 3. I think all 3 of those bodies of work, they've done a really good job. Alabama, I have no problem at 4. Georgia at 5. No problem there. Ole Miss at 6, but then you get to 7 and 8, and I think that's where people will start asking questions, because I don't know that the Big 12 would necessarily get 2 teams in. I think really the winner of the Big 12 championship. Now, look, Texas Tech will play BYU coming up this weekend, so we'll see a different poll next week where the loser will probably bounce out to around 13, 14, somewhere in there. Oregon at 9, you would think that they're going to move up. Notre Dame at 10. Texas at 11 is kind of a surprise, considering how they played. Now, granted, they've won, but they're putting them right there with a shot to get into the playoff. And then, of course, Oklahoma at 12. You look down the list, so Tennessee, they don't really have a shot to get in. If you look at 21 through 25, Michigan may be the only team back that far. If they can run the table and beat Ohio State, they could probably make a run, as a 2-loss Big Ten team. So I really don't have any problems with the rankings. Miami, they have just totally taken themselves right out of this thing again this year with 2 losses. The ACC, you would think, is probably going to get 1 team in. Right now, Louisville looks to be that team that could potentially get in. So we still got a long way to go. They didn't put a group of 5 team in the top 25. That's not surprising, but we still remember we do get a group of 5 team in this in this field. So it's important to remember it's not just the top 12 teams. Group of 5 is going to take one of those spots. Notre Dame is likely going to take one of those spots. SEC is probably going to get. I mean, if I were betting today, Texas A&M and Alabama and Georgia definitely going to get a spot. Ole Miss should get a spot. And I say should only because they've still got to play Florida, who's a very dangerous team. They can beat you. Mississippi State can beat you. They would have to lose both of those games. So they should get in. And then you ask yourself, is there one more SEC team that could possibly get in? And who would that team be? And, I don't know that they get any more than those 4 because Texas will likely lose to Georgia, you would think. That would give them 3 losses. Oklahoma, I mean, they've played really good ball, but they'll probably have another loss. Alabama on the road or something. So I think 4 is where we'll probably land in the SEC.
All right. Last year, before BYU played their first game in the Big 12, I read an article. Can't remember who wrote it. I wish I did. All the reasons why BYU will not succeed in the Big 12. Well, Dudley, Jake, everybody with eyeballs and ears, they're at number 7, but they're going to play Texas Tech. We know that. And Texas Tech, by the way, $55 million is what Mr. Campbell's put in to their NIL program, if that's correct. Talk about that, Dudley.
Well, they've got some loser league town matchups that are going to happen down the stretch here, and that's one of them. BYU is going to succeed in any conference because I think they've got a really good coach and a really good how do I want to put this? A really good way of attracting athletes to that state. There's a kid from Rogers up here named Braxton Lindsay who's going to BYU. He would make a fine football player 15 minutes down the road here, but he's going to BYU because they out-recruited them for him, and he likes that atmosphere and the whole vibe thing they got going on up there. I looked at all these rankings, and I thought the one that maybe I think might be a little low, but is Georgia Tech. I mean, I've liked them all year, and they lost a football game, but they've been pretty good. So. But it's all going to take care of itself. There'll be a few teams griping, as there would no matter what system we used here. But I do think these were pretty fair, and I can't see that anybody has too much of a gripe about these rankings. Although I'm sure fan bases are going, those 3 losses that we have, they shouldn't really count that much.
Yeah. Well, you do know what is significant. Both of y'all are both erudite, well-read individuals. Ogden, Utah is important for, don't you? That's where the Western Railroad and the Eastern Railroads came together, and they put the famous spike in the ground. So
that was I think in the show Gilded Age.
That's right. Just thought that'd be important. All right, Jake, Heath Klein is incredible. His mind is awesome. Talking about those matchups. And you look in the SEC right now, what we've got left. I mean, there's so many. Dudley's right. Shout out to our wrestling fans like David Aquadro, Tom Dorian, Scotty Sneed, Plowboy Frazier, Jackie Fargo, Jimmy Handsome, Jimmy Valiant. I think this thing takes care of itself, doesn't it, Jake?
Oh, it does. I mean, it really will. I mean, you look again down, some of these teams. I mean, you'll get the Big Ten winner with Ohio State, obviously, eventually taking on Indiana. It looks like you'll get the SEC winner with Texas A&M and Alabama. Look, Texas could cause some heartache here if they beat Texas A&M on the end of the year. That could propel Georgia into the SEC title game, depending on how this shakes out. So you're right. I mean, you can kind of walk down through this thing and see how it's going to take care of itself. And, you'll probably have a team or two that will gripe, just like we always see in basketball, or, last year it was Lane Kiffin or it was Brett Bielema. They're going to be 9-3 and talk about strength of schedule and stuff. But you're right, it will work itself out.
I do think the best team that I've actually seen in person on the field, and I know they lost their, came out of the gate slow with those 2 losses, but Notre Dame's the best team I've actually seen with my eyes this year, both on the field and walking off the field. I mean, they were an incredible looking bunch walking off the field. I was so impressed with what they did. And yes, Arkansas quit near the end of the second quarter and second half, but Notre Dame, they still got a shot to do this.
They do.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? And obviously they've got a massive fan following, just like Texas. And Texas A&M, there's 30 million people we know of in the state of Texas, and they're going to attract a lot of eyeballs. But all right, give me, Jake, a team that you think out of that group of 5. The Tulane-Memphis game Friday night at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium in Memphis. That's a big one. Ryan Silverfield, John Summerall on a lot of people's radar.
No, it is. It really is. I still like Memphis, though. You look at some of the quality wins that they have. Now, obviously, they've got to win their conference to get in. But, I think Memphis is a team that, depending on who they play, I mean, they're going to probably get the 12 seed. Which means like right now they would be matched up with Georgia. So they'd have to travel to Athens round 1. But and that would be an absolute uphill battle for them. But I think it's Memphis. Look, if Tulane gets in, I think that, equally, again, we've talked about John Summerall. Where does he go after this year? Does he go anywhere? But I like Memphis right now in that spot.
I watch that conference every week. If I miss the game live, I watch it, on replay, because one of those coaches in that league could very well be the coach I'm covering up here next year. They're all really good. They're all beating up on each other. I think out of those ones that I've watched, I think Memphis is probably the best team, but I was about to say it's every Saturday, but sometimes it's every Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
Well, the 4 o'clock club is John Summerall, Ryan Silverfield. That's when they're in their office. I mean, these are the guys. If you want a guy that's a brawler, that'll stand up to anybody, those are your personalities. I mean, and they get it done. And I love it, Dudley, because I love watching these games. And I do miss, by the way, the late night Pac-12 games with Bill Walton talking about anything but the game itself. But he was an incredible analyst. And my friend Jimmy said the greatest basketball player he ever saw, the big redhead. Jake, looking at this SEC crowd, Vanderbilt's, they're sitting there at number 16. If they win out, are they in the playoff?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are. I mean, you're looking at a team that right now has 2 losses on the season, and it's let's pop over here real quick. I know we're cut short for time, but if you go down and look really, really quickly at if you kind of project, Vanderbilt the rest of the way. Auburn is a team that they can beat, and I think that they will. They get them at home. Kentucky's a team they'll beat. So, look, they're going to go into that Tennessee game on the road at probably 9-2. And, Tennessee, with 3 losses, they don't really have a shot. I mean, look, Diego Pavia, you put him in that situation, I like their chances. And, yes, I do think, I said I thought 4 would get in. But if you give me Vanderbilt in this situation, they would probably, insert themselves in the conversation.
But now that Theo Vaughn is on the Diego Pave stepdad moment thing, trying to work there, I look forward to watching the rest of the year. I thought they were going to just overturn Texas's art there at the end of that game. And if they had, man, they'd be sitting really, really great right now. But I do think Vanderbilt's got a chance now. It'll be interesting to see what Tennessee has. I don't know if left is the right word, but it's not going to be as big a game as maybe you would have thought at the start of the year as they go down the stretch here in that game with Vanderbilt.
By the way, question from one of our viewers. You can't miss with the tortilla toss at Texas Tech. I mean, good Lord. History, traditions, heroes. That is what this show's all about. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you right there. Jake, you think about this. 10 years ago, the 3 of us are in a bar, and Brendan says, guys, in November of 2025, there's going to be a 12-team playoff, and we're going to be talking about Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, and Indiana being in it. What would you all say? Cut him off?
Yeah, first of all, I'll tell Sam, the bartender, to cut him off.
Oh, yeah. Lock him up. Yeah.
Put him away.
Yeah.
Send him to Bryce. All right.
That's where we're at.
Here's where we are. How much of what's happening in college football is because people just can't accept what is happening and they're not dealing with it and they're stuck on stupid? And I'm looking at the top 4 teams in the preseason poll: Texas, Clemson, Penn State, Ohio State. 3 of them are, Penn State's out of it. Texas still in it, loser leaves town match. And Clemson, wow, that's hard to believe where they are. Y'all's thoughts?
I mean, I think, some of it is just, I think when you look at it, it's so razor thin on evaluation and everybody's trying, Clemson, not so much. Clemson's the biggest anomaly to me because they were the youngest team in the college football playoff roster wise last year. They brought everybody back. There's no reason Clemson should be as bad as they are. I mean, they brought back Klubnik. They brought back a really good defense. So it's a head scratcher on, what's going on there. Is it a coordinator issue? Is it a culture issue? You have to ask questions. Texas, I think what we did with Texas is and I say we, I'm not going to put y'all in it. I know I did. And others is we put way too much stock in the name Manning. We did not really, we kind of glossed over the fact that they had a lot of offensive linemen that were going to be brand new this year. They had some key pieces that they had to replace. And obviously those guys have not fit the bill to the team that they had last year. And, when you look at LSU, there's just a multitude of problems there. So, I think it's razor thin on across the board on, hey, if you're going to be successful or not. You look at some of these close games and how they've pivoted for some teams and not. I probably didn't answer any of your questions. I just filibustered for 2 minutes, but it's a very convoluted mix when you start looking at all these teams and how they're put together.
I don't have any personal experience with this, but I understand that in a marriage, sometimes you can really love a person and toward the end you get tired of each other, and things doesn't execute as well as they go down the line. I think that's what's happening at Clemson. I think he's a really good football coach. I think they have a really good football program. But they're just tired of each other, and he needs to go somewhere. And I'm sure he has a big buyout too, and entertain another fan base, and it'll be good for everybody.
Well, I'll make a prediction. I think Dabo's in the SEC in the next year or two. I do think that. Big news though, Wesley Duncan watching down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The White Animals, one of the greatest bands of all time, final show is in Nashville Saturday night at the Exit Inn. The Exit Inn is located conveniently near the Vanderbilt campus.
How apt. How apt that it's the Exit.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yes, apropos, whatever journalistic term we can use. Both of y'all, though, make so many great points. The one thing I do know is you can't get enough college football, college basketball, college baseball. It's so personal. Again, we want more of it, but I think that Dabo, that's the best description. Dabo, they're done. I think he's got, my God, what is he, 52? He's a young kid. He's young. He's going to coach a long time, and somebody's going to be lucky to get the new Dabo that accepts him for what he is. The guy can build a program. He really can. All right, Jake, let people know how they can follow you, and then we'll wrap up and get out of here. We got a few minutes left, but this is great stuff.
Yeah, just on X at Jake Wim. Facebook, I'm wide open. Jake Wimberly, you can find it there. A lot of stuff on there as well. So we'll be on today 3 to 6, or actually 3 to 5 today. We have a coach's show for high school football following. So 3 to 5 today, 3 to 6 the rest of the week. thezone1059.com.
Love it. Dudley.
And I'm Dead Sports on Twitter and obviously InsideArkansas.com and hogville.net. And I'm parting today. I'd like to say F Disney and F YouTube TV. And y'all get this taken care of. I pay y'all a lot. I've paid y'all lots of money over the year. And you're doing this now?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Summer would have been a really good time to do this.
Yeah. Ellis Johnson, Coach Johnson was texting me last night. He goes, where do I go? We're going to find out. Okay. Great stuff, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. You bet. Thanks for sharing your time with us. It means more than you know. All right. Want to say something, guys, ladies, gentlemen, everybody. LandersFordMemphis.com, located conveniently at Poplar Avenue and Houston Levee, where Germantown and Collierville come together. Located conveniently in the heart of the Mid-South. They're open every day of the week except Sunday, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Service department provides round-trip transportation for you. Just make it simple. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. We got a lot of people watching this show. Support our sponsors. Give them the chance to earn your business. You will love yourself for doing it. Black Friday savings, it's all coming up. Get ready. The Ford Power Promise, Expeditions, Broncos, the F-150s. I drive an F-150. Drives like a car on the interstate and the highway. Drives like a truck off-road. I don't get stuck. Ask MJ. Even sliding down a rice levee, I don't get stuck. I love it. Hey, also down the street, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. You get down to Hewlett & Dunn, folks, the clothes, the boots, everything that they've got, you are going to look the best you've ever looked. They've got over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots, and they've got the Boot of the Week on Instagram. Charles Hall, the owner, his wife, Laura, they've built a culture out there. We talked about that. They have done it. Raven, J.M. Huffman, Lydia, all of them. Customer service is everything. Barber, Filson, Pendleton, Schaefer, STS, luggage, purses. They got more women's purses. You wouldn't believe it. And the boots made out of everything. Hewlett & Dunn. And Rumble Boxing at Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis. I'm serious. How you fight is how you live. Don't ever stop working out. Get in the best shape of your life. Take a picture of that QR code. Check them out. Open every day of the week between 5 and 6 a.m. Those classes are incredible. And Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Lights Out Gummies. These things work. They got energy, chill, and night-night gummies, okay? Topical, pains, lotions, gels. They've got it all. Use QR code. Check out Sidelines, get 25% off. Most often, We see the face of Christ in the least among us. There are angels among us, and you know who you are. Thanks for watching. For executive producer Brendan Martin, I'm Rob Browne. We'll see you tonight.